Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming to our research conversation today on behalf of A.G. Rod and Laura Girardot. I really want to welcome everyone to this research conversation. This will be the very last research conversation of the fall semester. We've had two previous ones really exciting, and we are really optimistic, and we know this one will be an exciting one as well. It's quite a privilege to have a neighbor, a friend, a colleague leading this research presentation today, Dr. Shenghai Dai. I could actually knock on his door right there. He's an associate professor of educational psychology and the director of the WSU Large Scale Data Laboratory. We call it the LSD Lab, housed in the Learning and Performance Research Center here in the College of Education. Dr. Dai's research interests focus on investigating the performance and utility of current and emerging measurement frameworks to provide formative and diagnostic information on student learning and achievement in various assessment settings. Dr. Dai is particularly interested in methodological and applied aspects of multidimensional item response theory models, cognitive diagnostic models, CDMs, sub-score reporting, differential item functioning, DIF, and large-scale assessment. He is also interested in applying advanced statistical methods such as missing data analysis, structural equation modeling, multi-level modeling, longitudinal data analysis, machine learning approaches in broad social and educational contexts. Dr. Dai has developed several R packages with over 100,000 user downloads globally. He has worked with large-scale assessment data such as NAEP, PISA, and TIMSS for over 10 years and has multiple publications and book chapters in along these areas of work. He currently serves as the chair of the Large-Scale Assessment Special Interest Group SIG of the National Council on Measurement in Education, that's the NCME. He's also serving as a statistical and methodological advisor of the Journal of School Psychology, an associate editor of Frontiers in Education, Assessment, Testing, and Applied Measurement, and a consulting editor of the Journal of Experimental Education and Psych. Today, Dr. Dai will introduce large-scale assessments and surveys in education, including basic elements of the design and data, as well as technical considerations in using these data for educational research. He would also discuss common and advanced quantitative approaches and software tools that can be used in applications using large-scale assessment and survey data. We are fortunate to have such a great scholar here today as a speaker, but not just only as a speaker. As I said, such a privilege to have Dr. Dai as a friend, a colleague, and a neighbor. I just knock on his door. He's just right beside me here. Thank you, Dr. Dai, for coming to this space today as our research conversation speaker. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Shenghai Dai. Over to you, Dai.
Thank you. Thanks, Shola. It's been an honor being invited to present my research here today. And then let me copy this link. So this link is a Google folder that I put my slides and articles that I'm going to talk about today. So feel free to reach out and download. Let me know if you have any questions or email me in the future if you have any questions. And let me share my screen here. Oh, sorry. This one. Okay. Duplicate, swap, yes. So my topic, the topic of my presentation today is focused on large-scale assessment and survey data in education challenges and opportunities. Based on my experiences and my role in the past decade, I shall say. So my presentation mainly based on my chapters and research in most recent years. The book chapter that Zoe and I had talking about introduction of large-scale assessment surveys, and the most recent publication that I had using large-scale assessment data is my collaboration with my colleagues from substantive areas. So my goal today is not focused on a specific project that using large-scale assessment data, but more of introductory, given that some of you may not be familiar with the date and format and design of large-scale assessment surveys. So I give a broad introduction of the opportunities that associated related to large-scale assessment surveys, and then I'll use my projects as examples and demonstrating how different methods can be used to address education research questions using large-scale assessment data and across different areas. Let me, if you have any questions, I don't see the chat here, but AG, please help. If you have any questions, please post the questions on the chat, and then I'll be happy to answer that along the way. Okay. So for those of you, if you are not that familiar with large-scale assessment, they are surprisingly, I think the large-scale survey programs, the number of such programs have been increasing tremendously in the past 2 decades, I shall say. They are not only in education, but in a broader social science context. So examples of popular and commonly used large-scale assessment and surveys. Internationally, we have the IEA, which has the base in Switzerland or Germany, the International Association for the Evaluation of Education Achievement. So that center it is frontier in proposing and administrating large-scale survey since 1950s. So they have the TIMSS, which is Trends in International Mathematics and Science Study, and Progress International Reading Literacy Study, and Computer Information Literacy Study, Civic and Citizenship Education Study, and the Response to Education Disruption Survey Study. And there are more than that. And OECD also has 2 and commonly very popular large-scale assessment surveys, the Program for International Student Assessment, the well-known PISA, and then Teaching and Learning International Survey, which are very related to cover a lot of topics in education context. And if you were in my classes, either 508 or 565 or 569, students should be familiar with those names because most of the data sets I used for teaching, instruction, and homework assignments are from large-scale assessments. And the United States has been administering large-scale assessments since 1960s. And the largest one, of course, is the NAEP, National Assessment for Educational Progress, that covers a lot of subject domains, math, science, reading, art, history, and a lot of engineering literacy, the most recent one, and high school longitudinal study and youth risk behavior and surveillance system, which is a program that outside education, but it's also a well-known and popular large-scale assessment surveys. And starting in 1980s, United States has been a participating country in TIMSS, PISA, PIRLS, TALIS, ICILS, and many more international programs. So that if you're interested in comparing education systems in the United States to other countries, Canada, Asian countries, European countries, African countries, and those are great sources because they have those large international large-scale surveys has been administered to many countries worldwide. TIMSS, I think now it has over 70 participating countries, regions, and areas. And so those are examples. And for students and faculty, and they are also funding opportunities and training opportunities as well. ARA, for example, it has a dissertation grant and ARA research grant that they are taking applications twice every year. And then these 2 grant opportunities specifically, they want the applicants to analyze or use more than one large-scale national and international federally funded data sets because the large-scale assessment data sets has been claimed or criticized to be underused in the past. So they are trying different ways. And the IES also has calls for national education research grants that specifically focus on large-scale assessment, NAEP grants. So if you have interest, you can keep an eye out for those opportunities. Those are examples of funded dissertation topics where you how college affects students towards the reconciliation of theory with empirical evidence. So you notice that a wide variety of the large-scale survey programs has been used. And BNB, and ECLSK, which is Early Childhood Longitudinal Program, and of course NAEP and TIMSS. And then you'll be surprised if you look for those. I attached those links to the websites. You'll be surprised how many programs are there that are allowing us to analyze that, and many of the data sets are you have free access at the publicly available. Just go to the website, download, and we can analyze the data sets. Of course, some of them we may need to apply a restrict use state license. But there are many data sources like TIMSS, PISA, TALIS, POST, all data sets are publicly available. And then training opportunities. There's a NAEP data training workshop. I applied and attended the workshop when I was in graduate school, and my students also attended the NAEP data training workshop. And then I think both Ona and Ola, they attended the workshop. And this workshop is fully funded by IES. So we do not have to pay anything out of our pockets. They will pay the lodging, they will pay the tickets, they'll pay everything in the per diem, and because they want to recruit and senior advanced graduate students and early career faculty, they want give training opportunities to and to them, and so they can make the best use of NAEP data. Not only NAEP data. For example, the most recent call they had is about HSTS, which is the high school transcript study. They are taking the application right now. So the NAEP data training workshop, and they also have PhD internships, and they have postdoc appointments and cooperative agreements. So if you have interest, you can explore the opportunities. I post the link here. And then common designs of large-scale assessment and survey. Sometimes people just call it large-scale surveys. Some people call large-scale assessments, but many times when just call the LSAS or SA, we talk about both components of these programs. The first component in education oftentimes consists of a cognitive assessments in multiple subject domains, like math, science, reading, writing, arts, civics, geography, history, TEL, collaborative problem solving. And then, so these components are administered to students every 2 to 4 years with the purpose of measuring students' abilities in specific domains. And in addition to cognitive assessment components, in those large-scale programs, they also administer questionnaires, background questionnaires to students, parents, teachers, principals, and school district leaders, collecting rich information and at all different facets, dimensions, aspects of the entire education system. So allowing researchers and practitioners to give a sense of how the entire education system flow through both a macro and a micro perspective, to see how the education system functions. And of course, there are different ways of administering. Used to be paper-based. Now they are transitioning from paper-based to computer-based, and then to digital and tablet-based administration mode. And then, for example, TIMSS 2019, I'm using TIMSS 2019 as an example. TIMSS as an example is there's an exciting opportunity that's coming along the way. So school questionnaire, for example, in TIMSS administered to school principals, and then at both grade 4 and grade 8, they ask the principals via out-of-way questions about the level of students' literacy, numeracy skills, early numeracy skills, and availability of instructional resources, the socioeconomic background of the students attending the school, and the school's emphasis on academic success and the need for discipline, and then the principal's education. Of course, different programs that may cover different areas. PISA, TIMSS, NAEP, they all have school questionnaires, and then the specific questions varied slightly and sometimes largely. In the teacher questionnaire, for example, they admit to student teachers, and there's only one at grade 4, assuming that the same teachers taught both math and science. But at grade A, there is a math teacher questionnaire, there's a science teacher questionnaire. And it covers domains, for example, teachers' education, professional development, career satisfaction, and the frequency they do various instructional activities, difficulties in providing instruction, and the curriculum topics covered in assessment practices, and available computer for instruction, and more than that. And NAEP even covers more since it's the largest national representative large-scale survey. And the student questionnaire and are administered together with the cognitive assessment. Usually students has about an hour each. They finish the cognitive assessment first, and then they have to give some time, 15 to 20 minutes, to fill out the questionnaire that administered them, asking students the education experiences at home resources, and school related to learning mathematics and science, attitudes towards learning mathematics and science, and school safety, and bullying, and belonging. So a lot of constructs. And then if the assessment was administered via a tablet, and the student will be asked how they feel the experiences and familiarity with digital devices. For example, in 2019, since this assessment in the United States was administered via a digital mode, part of the sample. So they will ask the students, test takers, do you like that this test was on a computer or tablet? And do you have any of these difficulties? So you have the interest, they cover a lot of areas, and there are so many variables allowing us to explore and address our research questions we have. And then there's exciting opportunity. I am keeping a close eye on this because TIMSS is doing a longitudinal study. It's going on right now. So they are recruiting participants for TIMSS 2023. And then the same cohort of students will be reassessed next year in 2024. So it will be a longitudinal design study and measure students' changes. So it will be very, very great opportunity if you have interest in exploring the students' knowledge growth and it changes, and then they will release the results in 2025, hopefully the data sets. The data sets, once released, will be available for free to the public. Okay, and then, so here's a brief introduction. I went through very quickly, and then I will give you some examples how research projects can be conducted using large-scale assessment and survey data sets. So based on my experience, my collaboration with our colleagues and the students. So Tao Hao, who defended her dissertation, graduated 2 years ago, and Yulia Al-Shiva and Ola Ramazan, who successfully defended his D1 yesterday, and we got Robert Danielson and Bruce Austin. And so this first project we did is a PISA reading achievement, identifying predictors and examining model generalizability for multilingual students. And then this project will initiate in 2019 or 2020, and during pandemic, and then we move along because it's a long process. Finally, it gets published this year. We have another piece published as well, going parallelly. So the background is focused on English learners. It is interesting because when I'm dealing with large-scale assessment data, NAEP data, English learners is of the term I'm familiar with. But through cooperation with earlier and experts in this field, the term has been changed from English learners to multilingual learners to emerging bilinguals, and so it's been. But I'm not an expert in the field, but I will introduce those papers through a methodological perspective. And we always here today as audience, if any question about that, I think she'll be happy to answer any questions. So focus on the English learners is our target population, and the reading literacy is the subject domain we want to focus on. And we realize there is a pressing need to uncover the underlying impacts of multiple nested systems on improving reading literacy for students, especially English learners. And then, so the research questions we have is that we want to find out what are the predictors of reading achievement that are most salient at the student, teacher, and school levels? And then if we can get a list of the variables that are most salient, and then what are the contributions and to students' reading achievement? And are there any differences if we disaggregate the sample by language status? So if we do the analysis and multi-group analysis focusing on ELs and non-ELs, what the differences will be? Are there any factors and the predictors to show different impacts to English learners as compared to the non-English learner peers? So those 3 research questions, and to address those research questions with the PISA data. So PISA program for international student assessment, they cover content domains, subject domains, math, science, and then reading. And 2018, reading is the focus domain. So with 2018 data, the sample includes 4,800 students from 164 schools. And we also, PISA also collect data from over 3,000 teachers. So we have the variables, the outcome variables. The outcome variable is the overall reading performance, but given the complex design in large-scale assessment data, they sample students or classes. They sample schools first, and then they randomly sample students or classes from selected schools. So it's a multi-stage, multi-step sampling strategy. So that result in that and they need to do something to address the sampling bias along the way. So what they did is they do not have one single variable they call reading score. They draw the distribution first, and then they draw 20 sets of random probable values from that distribution with the purpose that, okay, for do the analysis, you have to do that 20 times and then combine everything together as a single set to address those issues. So outcome variable is overall reading performance, and the predictors, whatever we have in the PISA data set is 1,482 variables. That's a lot of variables. And then earlier we kind of have a very interesting situation, a conversation about how to start with that project and to address the research questions. So earlier asked me, hey, do you have any statistical methods that can provide some evidence guiding us to select those variables from that pool of variables? And then my question for her is that, do you have any theoretical support from the literature, from theory, that are guiding us in selecting the variables? So after the conversation with the probably we can do both, because we are and then if we apply statistical methods solely, then we'll be criticized as data-driven. It's a pure data-driven. Even the PISA and Cook data, they have a very good framework guiding them to collect data, but there's still a lot of variables there. We can just randomly select the variables. Hey, look, those variables, they show statistical contribution to the outcome, but we do not have a theory support. But theory-wise, we do, and then there are plenty research supporting that there are some variables that show impact or can show potential impact to students' reading performance. But the literature may or may not be exhaustive or comprehensive. So we want to do both. We want to see what statistical evidence suggesting what are the variables that show great impact on students' performance, and we want to see what has been covered. So we want to get both and then bring both on the same plate to see, okay, to what extent though do the results match theory and statistical evidence? And then we start from here and we draw a panel of experts, content experts. We talk about what are the factors. We may get variables that have been studied and discussed in the literature, but ignored. And we get some information from statistical. And then once we get a list of the variables, and then we can evaluate using multi-level modeling and to assess the relative contributions of those factors from different levels, from a student level, teacher level, school level, to students' reading achievement. And then we can go further to investigate the model generalizability across English learners and native speakers, and what are the contributions the same, or are the contributions different when we evaluate the contribution using multi-level modeling. So those are the main the methods we use to address the research questions. Okay. Any questions so far? Good. And then steps. It was a large study, and even for me, that I kind of underestimated time effort, especially during the pandemic. So what we did is each step here took us a lot of time and effort. So step 0, that data management preparation. We need to merge data sets from different levels, from student level, teacher level, and school level. And we screened for missing data and outliers, and we will realize that the percentage of missing data range from 0% to 100% almost. So we have to deal with that. So when we do the analysis, the first step, variable selection, we use the machine learning feature selection technique, the elastic net analysis, which is pretty good at handling the dependency or correlation between the predictors. In education, if you were in my classes, I talk about that I do not prefer putting too many variables in the same equation, because in social sciences, it is inevitable that variables share or correlate to some extent. If we include variables have high correlation in regressions, and then we will violate the assumption of multicollinearity or absence of multicollinearity. But elastic analysis from machine learning framework is pretty good at handling this, and is really good at handling in the situation when we have a larger number of variables than the number of participants in the sample. So we use that, and we input for missing responses first, and then we analyze data using elastic net approach for each of the 20 sets of plotted values, and then we get a 20 list of ranked variables. So we ranked variables with the largest statistical contribution to reading outcome. So we got list from each plot of value. So we get 20 lists, and then we bring those lists to expert panel discussion and evaluate variables one by one to see whether there are any support from the theory, or whether the list we have obtained match the list we have obtained from the literature. And then still we get a final list of the variables, and realize that's still many. I think we get a list of 20 variables or more. And then there are still many for traditional modeling. So we thought about ways that, hey, can we combine some of the variables with high correlations? Or if we can hypothesize or think that some of the variables may measure the same construct. So in that process, we conducted confirmatory effect analysis and a principal component analysis when the CFA does not get good model fit. So we combine some of the variables to get a final list of the variables, and then we move forward to next step to multi-level modeling using the entire sample, and we input the missing data again, and then we did it hierarchically by entering variables at a student level, teacher level, and a school level. And then of course, multiple imputation was implemented, combine the results from 20 sets of the outcome plots of values. And then step 3, we replicate the procedure, but for ELs, English learners, and native speakers, and to investigate what other differences lie across both samples. And then it is a long process, and we got a big tables. I want to go too much detail in the result reporting since I am more serving as a methodologist for the project. Let me know or reach out to me if you have any questions. I post the article here as well. We do find some variables that show different impacts and different contributions across the different samples, multilingual students and the monolingual students. And for example, the ISCED level, this variable had a significant contribution to monolingual students, but not to multilingual students. And then and parallelly with this specific study, one of our students on Ramadan, so he used the same strategy and methods and investigated the research questions targeting a reading self-concept. So this paper was just get published like last week, and I post questions here. So after working through those two projects, probably get a feeling die just too complicated. I don't want to look at it because just methods I've never heard of, and this and these methods are either too advanced, are not covered in some of the courses. And of course, I have to admit, there are challenges here, like large-scale assessment and the surveys. The data are drawn, collected via a complex sampling design. We have to include the sampling weights all the time. There are plot of value issues. We have to combine the results using multiple imputation. We may want to use multi-level models that are missing data issues. May need a specialized software too. But I should say it's not always the case. The PIRLS project, because we applied a machine learning technique, which kind of innovative and advanced methods wise. But as a applied researcher, if you are not a methodologist, you are applied researcher, and all what you get trained is SDAC 508 and ARES 565. I was like, can I do a project like that using large scale assessment data? And after exiting at SDAC 565, I'll say yes, why not? And here I want to introduce you some and I don't want to say it's the easy version, but it is the most straightforward version or user-friendly version that with no sophisticated training in multi-level modeling. You do not even have to use multi-level modeling. You can still use large-scale survey data and address these questions that you have, and then make use of the online interactive tools and other software that are user-friendly. We're very user-friendly. You do not have to worry about, oh, how do I address the sampling weights? How do I combine the results from plots of values? And do I have to run multi-level modeling? So with those tools, you do not have to worry about anything about that. Okay, so the first example is I want to highlight is the IDB analyzer, as well as IEA IDB analyzer, and then it is a software that generates SPS as syntax for us. And then we do not have to write all those R code and the SAS code to do the analysis. An example is a project that's just published in 2023. It's and by our colleagues and on Ramadan is the effects of classroom and school climate on language minority students, PISA mathematics self-concept, and achievement scores. In this paper, they did not use multi-level modeling. They did not use machine learning. They just used the regular multiple regression that we covered and taught in ARES 565. So what they do is they do a hierarchical way, but it's still a traditional multiple regression, just by enter the variables step by step. And what they did is they used the IDB analyzer and then to specify the variables and the methods. So what an example here, what we need to do with the IDB analyzer, we open the data format, we open the software, of course, we download and install, and we open the IDB analyzer, and we select the data file, and we'll say, hey, I want to use this TIMSS data set, and then I want to run a linear regression. I want to use the plaza values, and of course, they will automatically handle missing data using list resolution. And then a next step would just specify what's our grouping variable, what's our independent variable, are they categorical or continuous, and what are the dependent variable. So we specify those variables, and then we just click start SPSS. So IDB Analyzer, it does not run any analysis, but it generates an SPSS syntax file for us. That includes everything automatically. It will include sampling weights. It addresses the sampling design using replication weights, and we run the SPSS syntax, and we get SPSS output. That's the results. And as applied researcher, you do not have to worry about, oh, so how do I combine the results? It combines the results automatically. It's not even multi-level regression. It's just regular standard multiple regression, that as we usually do. Okay, so this is one example. You can get things published and using multiple regression, and it's justifiable. And then if you get reviews come and say, hey, you should run multi-level modeling, and then talk to me. We can educate reviews, because that's what exactly owner, when they receive reviews come and say, hey, you should run multi-level modeling, and I told owner, don't worry, you don't need to. It's justifiable. That's the standard practice recommended by IEA, by PISA, by TIMSS. They did not, and the data analysis guide they published, they do not use multi-level modeling. And then they address the clustering effect and the multi-step sampling design using replication weights behind the scene. We just need to provide that information, and then the reviewers can, and the manuscript gets published. Okay, and then and if you still think IDB Analyzer with SPSS is due to advanced, and there's another way you can do, just make the best use of online tools. So for example, we just got a paper accepted. It's a progress of English learners with disabilities on NAEP reading. So when we came up with the idea, and I thought we do not need to use restricted license data. We do not need to use R. We do not need to use SPSS. We just use everything that we can from the online interactive tool that provided by IES and NCES. Right, the results we had is we did visualization and investigate patterns of NAEP scores across in the past decade, and we run regressions, and everything we obtain, there's no need to download a software. There's no need to run a software. All what we need, we just go to the website, and we specify, okay, we want to focus on reading, we want to focus on grade 4 national data, and from 2009 to 2019 composite reading scale, and we want investigate you specify the variables from the list, and you can say, okay, run regression analysis, and we get regression analysis results. We can also compare group differences. So that is very interactive. And then we had a tutorial attached to this paper. Once it's published, I'll share it with you. So that is a very friendly. So do not have to worry about the Dai. Do I have to run a multi-level SEM? Do I have to run multi-level modeling? There's no need. It depends on your research question, right? If your research question is not a multi-level research question, then you do not need to. And then those online interactive tools and those online, the IDB Analyzer, it handles everything as a great support. And we do not have to worry about the details of the technical side behind the scene. And then I propose some of the links of the large scale surveys here, and then in handbooks and introductory readings, and also workshop and training websites, feel free to explore. And then if for students, if you have any interest in expanding and further your skills, if you have, oh, Dai, these are great sources and how can I prepare myself skill-wise. So we have wonderful courses. So I do have a SAC 579 large scale surveys indication covered all the topics, and I offered it last year. If you think you want to take that course, reach out to me so I can get an estimate how many of you are interested in this topic. And then this in the psychometrics side and technical side. And then I would say if you completed SAC 508 and at RES 565, you're pretty good to go. And using addressing interested questions using large scale survey assessment data. And then if you want further like interest in exploratory effect analysis, creating variable composites and principal component analysis, confirmatory effect analysis, and multi-level analysis, I will be offering at SAC 569 in the spring. So let me know or feel free to register. It's a great course. Dai is a great instructor. So if you have the interest, feel free to reach out to me, or if you want to see the syllabus. And then if you want to further you really want interest in exploring multi-level modeling, I think Brian French is offering multi-level modeling every other spring, I think yes, every other spring, and I'll be offering analytic procedures 569 as well. So those are the paths you can take a look to equip your quant skills. Those are very good skills to support you further along the way. But of course, if you yes.
Dai, we'd like to leave some time. People, I'm sure, have lots of questions. You presented a lot of material. So if you could just wrap up very quickly, we've only got about 10 minutes for people to ask questions.
Oh, yes, I have. Those are things you have my slides already. So those are the resources and links I posted. So feel free to explore if you have any interest. And then, yeah, that's the end. Welcome to the wonderful world.
Wonderful world, yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll stop my sharing.
Okay, if folks could raise their hands, I'll call on you for questions. People are congratulating you.
Thank you.
I have a question just to prime the pump here. It's a question about how this all relates to connections to policy. Now, tell me where I'm wrong here. There are these large-scale data sets, and then there are people like you, experts, who analyze them. How does that then get translated to policy? Or how do you affect or advise policymakers on how to change things in schools based on what you've said?
Oh, yes. Actually, this is it's been it's kind of the main purpose for the launches of those large scale programs. And then, so in addition to research and publications that we did, and on the other side, for every assessment cycle, there are reports and being reported and then distributed to government units and then education systems. So they are like Japan, Norway, Canada, they evaluate and then they change the curriculum and then introducing new practices that may improve students' reading and then cognitive performances. So it's been happening in the past that country-wise, the education agencies, they will use the results to inform upon education policy and make changes. If they think that, oh, this active, because they are variable talking about teachers' perceptions of instruction, student perceptions of instructional clarity, and then classroom animated tips. So those are the variables. When they get a report, they'll curriculum-wise, they'll take some actions.
Thank you. Questions, folks?
And Patrick, IDB Analyzer does not analyze the data. It just generates the syntax, and then for either SAS or SPSS. So it is SPSS who handles the the analysis. I would say it's always good. There's no harm if you use another software. But other software probably does not handle sampling weights and replication weights appropriately. So far, I still think the additive analyzer with SPSS, it does the job beautifully. I compare my results from R and from SPSS from additive analyzer and think they match.
So Amy, you have your hand up.
Oh.
Amy, yeah.
Thank you. So Dai, I think I've mentioned to you before that I'm on the NAEP Mathematics Standing Committee. So I get to work with the psychometricians as they're writing the items and every step of the testing, which has really been fascinating for me. That I've worked on both the 2026 and we're already working on the 2028 NAEP. One of the things that we're doing is we have to change items with the times. Like we just had a meeting about a week ago, and we had an item about 4-function calculators, scientific calculators, graphing calculators. And we said, this was for high school seniors. They said, they don't even use those words anymore. They have their phone, you know? So, and then we change other contexts for relevance. Given that this is the tests are given every 2 to 4 years at all of these grades, and you're looking at it longitudinally, how do you deal with when items are changing and shifting as they have to stay relevant?
It is very, I would say, interesting and challenging. I think actually owner his dissertation investigating because the instruments or measures of specific constructs, some of them remain consistent. Some of them has been changing all across the time span, like an attitude towards mathematics, self-efficacy, those are have been changing in the past, corresponding to the updates theory. And then also, I think NAEP has very strict because students only get 15 minutes responding to the questionnaire. If you add one item, you have to take one item off because it's very strict. It's federal law, only 15 minutes. So to investigate things, for those all captured longitudinally with the same instrument, that would be easier. But for those, the measures and instruments changed along the way, that would be a little bit challenging because once the instrument changes, I would assume the construct definition changed a little bit. That's the reason why there are two different ways. NAEP, it does not do composites in the data set. So even though we assume there's a construct, we want to call it as a enjoyability or confidence, and we do not create a variable like that in the data set. It's always separate individual questionnaire items that are reported to federal government, to the public. So that is a reporting procedure. But for researchers, if you're only focused on 1 year, the most recent year, and we have the flexibility to create composite variables using CFA or IRT, and then for research purposes. So I think there are different ways for reporting. And NAEP is really, because it relates to Title I funds, so it's be more high risk. But for TIMSS and PISA, they are more flexible in handling those constructs.
Thank you. That's helpful. And actually, you might want to mention the relationship to Title I funds back to AG when he was talking about how it affects policy, because like NAEP is congressionally mandated, which is a little bit different from the others.
That's very helpful. Thank you, Amy. Mm-hmm. Other questions? We have a few more minutes. Well, I've got a question, another one. Tell me what on the TIMSS 2019 slides that you talked about, you had the principles, that you wanted to know about academic success, need for discipline, and so forth. Those were some of the things asked for, and the students bullying and questions like that. How are those questions decided? Who is it? A group of people that come to a focus group, perhaps, or is it what people want to look at that year and see, and what is a big concern, what is talked about in the media? Where do you gather that kind of question?
Yes, they have a committee. So no matter it's TIMSS, PISA, they have a questionnaire committee that oversees those. I think every year they have meetings, probably multiple times every year, that talk about the issues that lie in the instruments and measures. Are there any revisions needed? Are there any questions need to be revised? So every assessment cycle, they after tons of meetings, they decide, okay, we should revise this item based on the statistics from last cycle, and we need to add a new item. We need to remove those items. And those is really, I think they are very, very active committee overseas, and take control of the and this questionnaires.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, before people start to leave, we do have time for one more quick question. Amy's added something to the, you can all look at through the chat. Very helpful.
Yes, I can share one of the slides that I have, and what they did here is from my lecture notes. So what they did, the TIMSS 2019 schedule of activities, updating context questionnaire. So they every month they have meetings, talk about what can do, how the questionnaire can be revised, and also have field tests. So they will administer the questionnaire and a kind of assessment to a small sample first, and then using data set to investigate quality of the instruments and measures, and then revise them accordingly when there's a need before administering to the entire sample.
Great, thank you very much. It was an extremely informative presentation. Before folks leave, let's give a hand for Dai and his wonderful presentation, detailed and involving lots of colleagues too on important issues. Thank you so very much. As Shola said, this was the last research presentation of the year. Shola and Laura, would you like to say anything? But I want to thank both of you for, it's great working with you to find such diverse presentations to show the strength of our college.
Thank you so very much, everyone, for being here. We do have plans to continue in the spring. Thank you, Dai, for leaving us on a high note for this fall semester. Thank you.
Thanks very much, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.